I never imagined my grandpa's sacrifice would lead to this unbelievable moment at my graduation. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The sun blazed down over the crowd, yet a chill ran through my spine like ice water. My heart was thumping, loud and frantic, trying to drown out the echoes of whispered secrets swirling through the air. The ceremony was about to begin, but my thoughts were a storm, dark and swirling, tangled up in fear and uncertainty. There was a shadow cast over my family that day. Grandpa had always been a mystery, with stories that captivated my life. He used to sit by the fireplace, eyes gleaming with mischief as he told tales of bravery and heartache. He had fought in wars, he had lost friends, and every sacrifice he made hummed in the air like an ancient melody. But I never expected this moment would intertwine with his past in such a shocking way that as I stood there, dressed in my cap and gown, I felt an ache in my chest. Mom squeezed my hand, her grip trembling. I could see the faint glimmer of tears in her eyes, reflecting a deep sorrow. Dad was unusually quiet, his shoulders hunched, like he carried the weight of the world. I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. Something was brewing, lurking just beneath the surface, waiting to explode. Suddenly, chaos ignited the silence. A figure emerged from the crowd, drenched in sweat, clothes tattered, breathless. It was a stranger. Shouts erupted, people shoved their phones in the air, recording what they probably thought was a cringe-worthy graduation stunt. But his eyes, wild and haunting, locked onto me. "You have to listen," he shouted, gasping for air. "It's about your grandpa." My heart raced, adrenaline coursing through my veins like wildfire. Who was this man? The audience giggled, unsure of whether to take him seriously or laugh it off. But my stomach twisted painfully. Suddenly, it felt like the ground beneath my feet was shifting. I could see Grandpa's face in my mind, the intensity of his stories flashing before me. Was there something I didn't know? The stranger stepped closer, voice lowering, urgency coating every word. "He did something dangerous to protect you. You cannot ignore this." His gaze bore into mine, as if he could see every doubt and fear in my heart. I felt a lump rise in my throat. My mind raced through every memory, every lesson learned, but nothing made sense. Just then, the principal motioned for silence, and the crowd hushed. I stood, frozen, blood pounding in my ears. I wanted to run to that stranger and shake the truth from him. Yet my legs wouldn't move. Shadows flickered around me, whispers flowed like waves, crashing against the rocks of my heart. What had Grandpa done? The ceremony resumed, but I couldn't focus. I could practically hear the clock ticking down, the seconds counting away, dragging out the silence. My heart felt heavy, the weight of secrets bearing down on me. How could this day, meant for celebration, turn into something so terrifying? And as they called my name, the mixture of pride and confusion swirled inside me. I walked up to the stage, but all I could think about was the maddening question echoing in my mind: what was my grandpa hiding? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As I stepped off the stage, clutching my diploma like a lifeline, the adrenaline that had surged through me began to dissipate, replaced by a gnawing confusion. The laughter and applause around me faded into a dull roar, muffling the urgent voice of the stranger still ringing in my ears. I searched the crowd, eyes darting for any sign of reassurance, but all I saw were tilted heads and curious faces that felt like a million unanswerable questions. Mom was waiting for me right at the edge of the stage, her smile wavering, an ocean of anxiety swirling behind her eyes. I didn't know if I could bear the weight of her concern, so instead of easing her pain with words, I clutched my diploma tighter, bracing myself for what I suspected would be an uphill battle. "We need to talk," I managed to say, my voice shaky. She nodded, her brow slightly furrowed, and we found a small patch of shade beneath a tree where the noise of the crowd felt muted, intimate. I took a deep breath, the tension coiling tightly in my chest. "What did Grandpa do?" I asked, cutting straight to the heart of the matter. At first, her lips trembled as if she were grappling with the weight of the truth. "It's not just about what he did," she replied slowly. "It's about what he's been hiding. For too long, we've kept his past a secret. Thought it was for the best that I felt my world tilt on its axis." "But why? What could possibly?" Mom interrupted, her voice dropping to a whisper. "He made sacrifices for our safety, things he never wanted to burden us with. A decision that still impacts us, even now." The stranger's frantic eyes flashed in my memory. But how could I not know? I feel my voice broke. I feel like everything is a lie. A tear rolled down her cheek. "You have to understand, Haley, sometimes love means protecting those you care about, even if it means hiding the darker parts of your story." It didn't feel right, the weight of all that hidden darkness recoiling inside me. I opened my mouth to say something, anything, but the words evaporated. The laughter from the crowd still lingered in the background, oblivious to the tempest stirring in our small circle. Suddenly, in the distance, I spotted the stranger again, still pushing through the crowd with determination. My heart quickened. I knew I couldn't let this moment slip away. "I have to talk to him," I insisted, forcing my way around Mom. Before she could protest, I was already weaving through the throngs of people, my focus laser-sharp. The crowd seemed to close in around me, the world turning into a blur of colors and sounds as I approached the wild-eyed man. "Wait!" I shouted when I was just an arm's length away, desperation clawing at me. He halted, his breath still ragged as if he had sprinted miles. "You're the one," he said, eyes widening with urgency. "You need to know before it's too late." "Too late for what?" I demanded, heart racing. Then, abruptly, he glanced over his shoulder, panic flashing across his face. "They're coming," he muttered, voice low and trembling. "We don't have much time. Your grandpa's decisions have repercussions far beyond what you know. They want to silence him." "Who?" I pressed, fear coursing through me. His gaze darted around again. "People who don't want the truth to come out. You have to." Before he could finish, a figure emerged from the crowd, tall and imposing, blocking our way. His expression was a perfect blend of authority and menace, eyes fixated on the stranger. "You need to leave," he said. Now, blood rushed to my ears. My eyes flitted between the man and the stranger. "What's going on?" "Please," the stranger pleaded, desperation flashing in his eyes. "You don't understand the danger your family is in." The atmosphere crackled with tension, every second stretching long and taut. The urgency pulled at my insides, igniting a spark of determination. I took a step backward, my instincts kicking in, but I couldn't allow fear to control me. "Tell me everything," I cried out, voice trembling but resolute. And then, in the blink of an eye, the world shattered once more as chaos erupted, sirens wailing from afar. In that moment, a chilling certainty gripped me. Secrets weren't the only things hiding in the shadows. The sirens drew closer, their wails slicing through the air with an urgency that wrapped around me like a vice. The stranger's eyes widened further, filled with a mix of fear and determination that I had never seen before. "You have to listen to me, Haley. If you want to understand what's at stake, we need to go now." I could sense the imposing figure behind him, a powerful presence that radiated authority and threatened to crush any hint of defiance. My heart fluttered wildly as confusion and panic battled within me, clouding my judgment. But what about my family? What does my grandpa have to do with this? His gaze settled onto mine, accepting the gravity of the question. "I wish I could explain everything here, but time is slipping away. Just trust me, please." And in that moment, something shifted inside me. Trust was an abstract notion, fragile and often misplaced, but the desperation in his eyes ignited something primal. I glanced back at my mom, her face a portrait of anguish, caught in a limbo between the noise and the unfolding chaos. "Mom!" I shouted, my voice trembling as I wrestled with the decision tearing me apart. "I have to go with him." She seemed caught in a whirlwind within her own thoughts, her expression a confluence of panic and understanding. "Haley, no. You don't know him. He could be dangerous." But I couldn't wait. The man behind the stranger shifted, closing the distance like a predator. "We need to move. Now," he urged. I turned back to the stranger, finding his eyes more feral than frantic. "Is my grandpa in danger?" "Yes," he replied fervently. "And not just him. Your family. The truth he's been hiding could be the key to unraveling everything, and they don't want that. It was now or never." "Okay," I breathed, adrenaline propelling me forward. I grasped the stranger's arm, and together, we dodged around the towering figure that loomed behind us, who was now shouting orders into the chaos. I could see the crowd breaking into two, like water parting for a storm, their faces painted with confusion rather than fear. As we wove through the mass of jubilant graduates still caught up in their celebratory haze, the weight of my choices crashed down around me. "What do you know about my grandpa?" I asked, needing some form of reassurance amidst the chaos. "Everything," he said, urgency compelling his words. "He was part of something much larger than your family's past. A collective interest that intersects with your life in ways you can't yet fathom. But his choices have painted a dangerous target on his back." My heart pounded in sync with the sirens now drawing omnipresent, an anchor pulling me deeper into an uncharted sea of uncertainty. "Why didn't we know? Why didn't Mom tell me?" The stranger glanced back, his expression tight with determination. "Because knowing can be a heavy burden. Sometimes the truth is too dangerous for those who love you." We broke through the crowd's edge, my mind racing to make sense of the whirlwind of thoughts and emotions. As we stumbled onto an empty street, I paused, stealing a glance back. Mom stood where I had left her, a small figure swallowed by the clamor. My heart wrenched at the sight of her, a look of desperation etched into her features. She hadn't followed, and deep down, I knew she was wrestling with this same decision, the conflict screaming silently between us. "Come on," he urged again, gripping my arm gently yet firmly and forcing me to move. I felt angry and confused, battling loyal urges to go back and protect my family from the repercussions of the dark history looming over us. As we rounded a corner, we entered an alleyway cloaked in shadows. A chill slid down my spine, and I swallowed hard. "What now?" "Now I tell you about what's coming," he said, his voice edged with urgency. "And what your grandpa's past means for you. You're not just a bystander in this story, Haley. Your life is directly entwined in his choices." "Enlighten me," I challenged, my heart racing as adrenaline coursed through my veins, but just then, without warning, I felt a surge of unfamiliar heat sweep through the air. A car careened around the corner, tires screeching, a sleek black vehicle that seemed to emerge straight from a nightmare. Fear gripped my throat as the driver, a faceless silhouette behind tinted windows, slammed to a halt mere feet from us. The door swung open, and from the shadows, a tall figure stepped forward, exuding authority. The stranger at my side froze, eyes wide with terror. "They found us," he breathed, a haunting finality in his voice as echoes of my own heartbeat thundered in my ears. "Run!" But before I could process his command, the figure locked eyes with me, a knowing smile curling his lips. All the warmth from the previous celebration now felt like a distant memory, replaced by a frigid uncertainty that consumed every ounce of hope I had left. In that terrifying moment, one truth screamed louder than all the noise surrounding us: I had stepped onto a path I couldn't turn back from, and the ramifications of my grandpa's hidden life were far more profound than I could ever have imagined. I stumbled backward, my mind racing as the figure approached, an impenetrable aura of menace enveloping him. In that heartbeat, vivid reflections of my past flashed before me: birthday celebrations, family gatherings, the unassuming man who had always been there. My grandpa's stories of bravery felt trivial compared to the chaos now unfolding before me. There was no denying the truth that loomed just beyond my grasp. The revelations were a mere shadow, threatening to unravel everything I thought I knew. Don't just stand there. The stranger at my side shouted as he tugged me away from the approaching figure. We have to go. With a panic I couldn't shake, I looked back once more, my heart clenching at the sight of the smooth, cold smile spreading across the figure's face. Haley, he called, his voice silky and smooth, do you really think you can escape your destiny? The words spiraled around me, wrapping my thoughts in doubt. I didn't know what destiny meant, nor did I understand what awaited me. We can't leave, I breathed, the weight of uncertainty anchoring me down. What if they get my family? They want, he said vehemently, his eyes now piercing with a focused determination. Not if we act quickly. But his voice wavered, betraying a flicker of uncertainty as if he wasn't quite sure if his assurances could offer any real comfort. The figure continued advancing slowly. I wouldn't be so sure, he taunted, his grin growing wider as he allowed every second to stretch into an eternity of dread. I could see a hint of recognition in his eyes, and that filled me with an unsettling mix of fear and anger. Who are you? I managed to ask, the words strained from my lips. What do you want with my grandpa? Your grandpa, he began, his voice mocking and indulgent, has kept secrets that should have never been buried. But you. His gaze shifted toward me, weighing me as if I were an object of his convoluted desire. You're the key to unlocking those secrets. That I squeezed my eyes shut, overwhelmed by the onslaught of emotions thrumming through me. You're lying. I shouted, clenching my fists. This is insane. My family means nothing to you. On the contrary, he replied, brushing off my anger with a dismissive wave. Your family and your grandfather are the center of a story much bigger than you realize. What he sacrificed long ago goes beyond what he shared with you, and I'm here to make sure you understand how to use that legacy wisely. The stranger beside me stiffened, jaw set tight in defiance. We're leaving, Haley. Trust me. But as I watched both men, I was struck with a visceral clash of loyalties, a battle I didn't know how to win. On one hand, my instincts screamed for self-preservation, on the other, the thought of my family caught within this twisted narrative sent waves of anguish crashing against my resolve. Run! He urged again, this time pulling me firmly toward the mouth of the alleyway, desperate urgency spilling through each word. The world blurred into a cacophony of noise punctuated by sirens and voices, where each moment carried the weight of 1,000 unsaid truths. We broke into the street, and just as the lights began to dance neon in the distance, I saw me classmates who had been celebrating, now scattered like leaves in a storm. A memory gripped me of laughter and shared joy, nothing close to the frenzy I felt now. But adrenaline surged forward, and I ran, not looking back, unwilling to let fear dictate my fate. He's still coming. The stranger hissed, urgency lacing his tone. I glanced over my shoulder, catching a glimpse of the looming figure, the smile still intact, trailing us seemingly unfazed by the panic in the air. Why is he so confident? I gasped, the sound of our feet hitting the pavement a frantic drumbeat. What does he want? He wants you to understand that the shadows of your grandfather's past aren't just bonds that will bind you, they're chains meant to keep you shackled, he replied, and I could see the conflict brewing in his own eyes, on the precipice of revealing more. But there's something he doesn't know. It's not just about your grandpa anymore. Before I could press further, a flare of light sliced through the darkness, illuminating the path ahead. A police vehicle was bobbing down the road, sirens wailing in the distance like angry thunder. For a fleeting moment, my heart leapt. Was there help coming? The stranger's grip tightened around my wrist, pulling me closer. You don't understand. Need a plan, and it can't involve them. But before I could respond, the echo of a gunshot rang out, severing the air with an unforgiving crack that sent a chill crawling down my spine. The world slowed around me as I realized the moment had descended into a chaos that echoed my own spiraling thoughts. Everything was spinning, the ground beneath me trembling as uncertainty took hold with an iron grip. Haley. The stranger shouted, and the tension between us was palpable now, hope against the relentless tide of terrifying urgency. This is a fork in the road. You have to choose, but as I stood there caught between the specter of my grandfather's past and the impending wrath of unknown enemies, I knew one undeniable truth: my life was about to be irrevocably altered, and nothing would ever be the same. The next decision I made could change everything, but as doubt crept in again, I was left with a chilling realization. Each choice I could make was already laid out before me, and time was running out faster than I ever thought possible. That I took a deep breath, ready to forge my path, yet prepared to face the revelation that awaited in the shadows behind my grandfather's sacrifice. Whatever came next would be my reckoning, and from the depths of uncertainty, I could feel the walls closing in. The air hung thick with tension, a silence punctuated only by the murmurs of chaos that spilled from every direction, frantic voices of my classmates and the shrill wail of sirens creating a symphony of dread. The clarity of the moment twisted around me, a disorienting blend of fear and resolve, leaving me desperately scrounging for a way out. "Haley, please," the stranger urged, drawing me closer as if our fates were intertwined in a fragile tapestry. "We can't stay here. Trust me, I promise you there's more at play than you realize." His voice shook with urgency, and I could feel the desperation in his grip even as he struggled to shield me from the chaos surrounding us. Trust. Such a small word, yet in this instance, it felt monumental. I searched his eyes, looking for honesty amongst the anxiety, looking for the hope he spoke of. "How can I trust you when everything feels like a lie?" His expression darkened, but his resolve stayed firm. "Because I know things your grandfather never told you. Things that could save you and your family." That I hesitated, torn between my instincts and the hunger for the truth. My mind spun with visions of my grandfather, the man whose laughter had always filled the room, whose stories of bravery had formed the bedrock of my childhood. What did he conceal behind that warm facade? Was the family I loved truly in danger? "We're not safe here," he pressed, dragging me further from the streetlights that warmed our skin only to cast ominous shadows around us. "We need to find a place to regroup." In that moment of doubt, a flicker of warmth cut through the chill of indecision, and impulse to protect that strengthened the bond forming between us. The remnants of the graduation celebration, the laughter and pride felt like ghosts, haunting my memories as I grappled with the unfamiliar reality that enveloped me now. "Where can we go?" I asked, my voice steadying even as adrenaline thrummed in my veins. "Follow me," he said, urgency lacing his tone. "Stay close." As we struggled through the labyrinth of side streets, a primal instinct guided my every step, drowning out the echoes of fear. I took in the night, the sharp scent of rain-soaked asphalt mingling with the adrenaline spiking in my chest. But just as we turned a corner, the figure from before loomed ahead, his smile still etched across his face like a dark omen, waiting patiently in the shadows. "There is nowhere to hide, Haley," he called, his voice taunting yet strangely alluring. "You can't run from the truth." Cold sweat prickled at the base of my neck, and the stranger beside me halted, his face twisted in determination. "We must keep moving. He's trying to manipulate you." "I will expose your grandpa's legacy, Haley," the figure continued, his tone syrupy and false, something far sweeter than I was prepared for. "A legacy of blood, lies, and a choice yet to be made. Your choices will define what's left of your family, and I know you feel that burden." Just as despair crept back, the stranger pulled me behind the corner of a building, shielding me from view. "This isn't the end, Haley. No matter how he twists the truth, you control your story." Yet, the agony of uncertainty gripped my heart. How could I wrestle control over a narrative I barely understood? I could feel power pooled in my stomach, tangled with fear but ripe for discovery. But just as I was grappling with my emotions, a soft voice broke through my thoughts. "Haley." The call came from deeper in the alley, a familiar voice laced with worry. It was my friend, Megan, looking fraught but determined. "We're looking for you. We need to go." "There's something wrong." Her presence sparked a flicker of hope, but right then, the figure began advancing toward us, the shadows closing in. "You really think your friends can save you?" he taunted, his voice dripping with mockery. "How naive." "Stay back." the stranger beside me barked, stepping protectively in front of me. My heart raced, torn between running toward Megan or standing still among the chaos that threatened to swallow me whole. How do I know this isn't a trap? Megan cried, her eyes darting between us as I stood paralyzed. Haley, we can't navigate this darkness alone, but the figure chuckled softly, filling the air with dread. Whatever you choose now will lead to consequences, my dear. Every facet of your life is woven together by strings only I can sever. Haley, what should we do? Megan pressed, panic rising in her voice, a reflection of the tumult within me. I could see the uncertainty in her gaze reflected in my own, and it became clear whatever choice I made would echo within our lives forever. Choose wisely, the figure whispered. The truth awaits that I end that instant, the weight of my grandfather's legacy, intertwined with my own fate and the bond of friendship, began to crush down upon me, and I understood that running wouldn't sever the ties, facing the reality would. I inhaled deeply, a decision swirling in my mind, but before I could grasp it, a chilling revelation painted my heart with a sharp edge. What if the figure was not just a stranger, but a damning piece of the puzzle I had yet to comprehend? Go! I shouted to Megan and the stranger, heart pounding as I glanced toward the figure, ready to confront the haunting shadows of my past or risk losing everything that mattered. Yet just as I took a step forward, the ground trembled beneath our feet, and a blinding flash illuminated the dark alley. Caught in a web of impending doom, I wondered if this choice might unravel the connections I held dearest. A storm was brewing, the truth trembled in the air around us, waiting for me to unravel it or fall victim to its design. The blinding light faded, leaving behind a ripple of darkness swimming in front of my eyes. For a fleeting moment, it felt like time had stopped, voices muted, fear suspended, and the allure of recklessness shimmering on the edge of my decision. Everything I had known felt both surreal and painfully vivid. I took a deep breath, absorbing the damp air swirling with uncertainty. Haley. Megan's voice broke through, now barely a whisper under the weight of the unknown. The urgent fear in her eyes mirrored my own. I needed to decide, and quickly. Can we just leave? I pleaded, uncertainty clawing at my insides. Maybe it's just a game to him, something to toy with in the shadows. I felt the heaviness of my fractured thoughts, caught in a battle between invoking bravery and surrendering to confusion. No, Haley. We can't turn our backs, the stranger affirmed, his grip tightening as he stepped up beside me, defiance etched in his features. If we run, we'll never know what we're up against. You have to face him, to confront your past, not just for yourself, but for everyone who may be caught in this mad web. You have a choice to make, and there's power in that, but I don't even know what that power is. I retorted, frustration spilling from my lips like water from a broken dam. How can I be expected to fight an enemy shrouded in secrets? The figure lurking in the shadows chuckled softly again, drawing nearer. And yet, here you are, wondering if the inheritance of lies can protect you. Do you really believe ignorance will grant you peace? A flicker of anger ignited within me. You don't get to decide what I'm capable of. Just who are you? Someone who knows far more than what you've been allowed to see, he replied cryptically, his smile curling with insidious satisfaction. A cold chill swept through the alley, and Megan edged closer to me, her hand clutching my forearm like a lifeline. Don't listen to him, Haley. We can figure this out. As the shadows loomed over us like a blanket threatening to suffocate, the stranger beside me exuded a sense of calm I desperately needed. He took a step forward, challenging the figure, and I felt the warmth radiating from his determination, igniting the suppressed courage deep within. What are you so afraid of, Haley? He asked softly, his voice steady. What truth are you willing to face? This moment is yours to own. Heart pounding, I pulled my gaze from Megan to the figure, and with that shift, the darkness transformed. In that moment, a flicker of warmth rippled across my chest, a realization of agency that had been lost beneath layers of fear. I don't have to let you win, I declared defiantly, drawing strength from the bond one felt with both my friends and the stranger. Is that so? He taunted, but irritation lay within the edges of his voice. You have no idea what lies ahead, then tell me. I shouted, my voice unwavering as tension swelled around us. What do you want from me? The figure stepped closer. Your grandfather's past is woven with choices that will unravel your future. It's not just about you. What he did, it wasn't out of love, but despair. As his words hung between us, I felt the world pitch beneath my feet. The deeper implications crashed down around my skull, the impact of betrayal colliding with my tender loyalties. What are you saying? I breathed, doubt edging in again like unwelcome company. Everything he left behind holds a darkness that bleeds into this moment, Haley, he replied softly, his tone almost pitiful. You cannot ignore what he sacrificed. Every moment you cling to your naivety, it tightens its grip around your family. That I looked at the stranger, his features illuminating in the dim light, and the steadfastness in his eyes urged me forward. What if it's true? I whispered, a strange concoction of fear and curiosity swirling in my gut. What if my grandfather kept the truth from us to protect himself? The figure interjected, hatred lacing his words. Sacrifice often breeds betrayal. You must decide what you will do with what you learn. Megan's face twisted in confusion. Haley, don't listen to him. He's only trying to twist your thoughts, am I? He countered, leaning forward so close that I could feel the shadows wrapping around his voice. Tell me, what price would you pay for the truth? The intensity clawed my heart, yet I felt a surge building within. If the legacy of my family is born of pain, then maybe the only way to reclaim it is to confront that darkness. Even if it means risking everything, I answered, feeling the words bind me to an unexpected resolve. A smirk flitted across his lips, a chilling response to my conviction. Very well. If it is truth you seek, truth you shall find. The storm is coming, Haley, and it will take no prisoners. And with that, the atmosphere thickened, the ground beneath us trembled with mounting chaos. My heart raced as a distant sound of crashing thunder resonated, the weight of the impending storm a cruel reminder that what I had stepped into was no mere game. It was a battle for the essence of my family, my identity entwined with the shadows of the past. The deepest questions loomed, tugging incessantly at my spirit. The precarious line between redemption and ruin blurred as I stood on the cusp of a revelation I had never sought, but with a final flash lighting the dark sky, I was thrust into a world torn apart by secrets, poised to discover unbearable truths that lingered beyond the storm. As the thunder cracked overhead, the weight of the moment settled on my shoulders like a heavy cloak. I trembled, my breath uneven, caught between the thrill of courage and the terror of the unknown. The shadows of our conversation danced in my mind, each word slipping through my fingers like grains of sand, building an insurmountable mountain of doubt. Could I really challenge the legacy my grandfather had crafted, a legacy steeped in desperation? Megan, I said breathlessly, turning to her, what if he's right? What if everything he's saying is true? Megan's brows knit together, concern carving deep lines into her youthful face. He's trying to manipulate you, Haley. You have to trust your instincts. Her voice caught, quivering with emotion. You're not defined by your grandfather's choices. You write your own story, but the heaviness of our reality thickened around us as the stranger's words echoed, persistent and insistent. You must decide what you will do with what you learn. The implications gave my heart a cruel squeeze. Before I could respond, a jolt shot through the air. The wind picked up, tearing through the alley, sending a shiver down my spine. I winced as rain began to pour, mercilessly drenching us, sky and shadows merging together into a fleeting memory of warmth. Let's get to cover. The stranger insisted, grabbing my hand in a firm grip. The heat from his skin was a paradox against the frigid rain, drawing me closer to him than I intended. Megan followed, her expression a fragile mixture of determination and fear. We sprinted across the slick pavement, rain-soaked memories splashing beneath our feet. My heart raced not just from the adrenaline but also from the chaotic torrent of thoughts swirling within. What was I facing? If my grandfather had a shrouded reality, what did that mean for our family? With swift strides, we ducked into a small cafe, the soft glow of warm light washing over us, contrasting sharply against the storm's tumult. As we shook off the dampness, my gaze fell on a wall lined with photographs, graduations, jubilant faces, and shared moments caught in time. For an instant, the warmth curled around me like a tender embrace. I longed for those simple joys, far removed from the dark undertones of my heritage. What now? I asked, peering through the rain-specked windows. The storm raged on, each drop a reminder that turmoil was inevitable. Megan leaned against the counter, her expression pensive. We regroup. Maybe there are people who know your grandfather better than we do. If he left behind secrets, someone might hold the key. That I nodded slowly, the flicker of hope igniting a small flame in my chest. The family friends, I remember them coming to our house for gatherings. They might have known him differently. The stranger clasped his hands behind his back, a quiet presence amongst our burgeoning plans. We could seek out his old contacts. Still. Be wary. There may be those who would rather the past remain buried. Fear clawed at my insides as I contemplated uncovering truths that could shred apart everything I held dear. I had started this quest seeking clarity, but now I felt trepidation cocooning my spirit. The storm rumbled outside, echoing my turmoil. Suddenly, a figure appeared at the cafe door, a tall woman with wild, curly hair drenched in rain. Her eyes sparkled with recognition as they met mine. Haley. She called, and a wave of familiarity washed over me. Something deep inside stirred. I hadn't seen her in years. My grandfather's longtime friend, Harriet. The urgency of the moment cut through the thick tension. She stepped inside, dripping water onto the floor, and her gaze softened with concern as she took in our haggard appearances. You need to sit down. There's much we need to discuss. I've been searching for you. There are things about your grandfather that you don't know. Megan, what if she knows something? I whispered, fear brushing against the edges of my curiosity. Harriet's sudden re-emergence felt too fortuitous, too orchestrated against the backdrop of my growing unease. Haley, listen, Harriet continued, urgency threading through her voice. Your grandfather's sacrifices stretch far beyond what you can imagine. You're on the brink of something monumental. The reality of those words gripped my heart as I processed the weight of her presence. You mean the decisions he made? You're saying they affect me? More than you could possibly know, she said, biting her lip. You must understand your grandfather's choices were rooted in love, yes, but also despair. His actions were to protect you, and there are ties to your future that have yet to be revealed. The weight of her revelation threatened to suffocate me, shackles of revelation binding me to unforeseen torment. But why now? I implored, clutching the edge of the table. Why reach out now? What do you know that I don't? Harriet stepped closer, her voice lowering conspiratorially. Because darkness is approaching, Haley, and you need to choose your path wisely. There's an unseen force, a shadow that reaches far and wide, threatening everything you hold dear. My pulse quickened again, grounding me against the uncertainty that eclipsed my thoughts. Outside, the thunder rolled, as if in agreement with the turmoil brewing within me. I could feel the heavy weight of choices ahead, paths intersecting at dangerous angles. Stay close, the stranger said, allowing an arm to stand protectively around me, as if sensing the impending storm was both within and outside the cafe. With a heart full of dread and unquenchable curiosity, I was pulled further into the unknown, where each answer led to darker questions and choices I never sought out. As rain tapped softly against the windows, I sensed that the real battle, the heart of my family's legacy, was inching ever closer, a truth that might shatter my world in a way I couldn't yet fathom. Just then, I received a text on my phone, the screen lighting up with a message from someone I hadn't spoken to in years. We need to talk about your grandfather. It's urgent. My breath caught as realization washed over me. A connection to this storm, this journey, had just begun to unfold in ways I could have never anticipated. The cafe's steady hum felt like a sanctuary, a brief respite from the tempest both outside and within. But the momentary calm did not last, as the message on my phone flickered insistently, pulling my attention away from the incomprehensible weight of Harriet's words. Who is it? Megan leaned in, curiosity etched on her brow. I hesitated, my heart thrumming loudly against the confines of my chest. It's my cousin, Adam. We haven't talked since the family reunion years ago, actually. Read it, she urged, her voice a mixture of enthusiasm and trepidation. Harriet stood nearby, her expression clouded with both concern and a hint of anticipation. Taking a breath, I tapped the screen. "We need to talk about your grandfather. It's urgent." There was a pause, a stillness, before I added more under my breath, "He's involved in all of this." The room felt smaller suddenly, as if the universe was tightening its grip around my fate. Adam had always taken a back seat to the family drama, content to remain in the shadows while others illuminated the walls with their chaos. The implications of his reaching out now were unsettling, suggesting that legs of our family story were intertwined in ways I hadn't fathomed. "Do you think he knows anything?" Megan asked, her eyes searching mine for answers I didn't possess. "That I don't know. But the timing is suspicious." I glanced up at Harriet, whose face suggested she understood more than she was letting on. "Is it possible that Adam has uncovered something as well?" "Possibly," she responded, the tension in her voice taut. "Your grandfather's life was a tapestry woven with secrets, Haley. Each thread could unravel or fortify your understanding. Your cousin might be a key that I need to talk to him," I said, determination lacing my voice. "We have to figure out how our histories connect. If there's a shadow threatening my family, I can't wait any longer. We need answers." Megan nodded resolutely, but as I glanced at her, I saw a flicker of doubt in her eyes. The storm outside raged, but an even fiercer tempest brewed in my heart. "How can I trust that he won't be manipulated like I was by my grandfather?" "That's the risk you must take," Harriet said gently. "Unraveling a legacy isn't without peril. The truth can be a double-edged sword shaping destinies but also cutting ties we once held dear." A cold wave of inhibition washed over me. Dread began to seep through, a saltwater sting on a fresh wound. Perhaps approaching Adam would merely dredge the tide further, exposing buried entanglements that my family had fought to hide. Still, with hope pushing against the heaviness, I felt compelled to act, knowing the course was beyond my control. I stood abruptly and made for the counter. In going to call him, as I dialed Adam's number, the cafe began to hum with familiar chatter, but I could only hear the pounding of my heart. The line rang, each sound a pulse of uncertainty. When he finally answered, his voice came through, tinged with an urgency that echoed my own. "Hey, Haley. I didn't expect to hear from you," he said, each word steeped in disbelief. "It's good to hear from you, too," I replied, forcing a steadiness that evaded me. "Listen, I got your message. What's going on? What do you know about Grandpa?" There was a pause on the other end, a deep inhale that stretched too long. "It's complicated. Can we meet?" "There's more than I can say over the phone, especially with everything happening in the family." "Of course," I agreed, urgency buzzing through me like electricity. "Where?" "Just outside Oak Grove. You remember that old bridge? Let's meet there tomorrow around noon." I glanced at Megan, whose worried face mirrored my own thoughts, a million possibilities swirling unspoken between us. "Okay," I said, though the agreement made my skin prickle. "I'll be there." After hanging up, I felt the weight of the world pressing down on my very soul. "What now?" I asked, turning to Harriet. "What if he's in danger, or what if he knows something worse?" "Prepare yourself," she said, her steel blue eyes locking onto mine. "The past often keeps the worst of its secrets hidden from those it aches to protect." That evening, as I lay in bed, the tumults of the day echoing in my mind, I closed my eyes, prompting my heart to still. I thought of my grandfather, his legacy shrouded in betrayal yet tangled with sacrifices that cut deeper than I had known. I found myself wishing for guidance, a sliver of light to pierce the imminent shadows, but as clouds loomed outside my window, heavy with rain, an overwhelming fear surged inside me, choking out any semblance of solace. A familiar sound drew me back. It was my phone igniting again with another message. Heart racing, I checked it, my fingers trembling as I read, "I can't talk much now, but you need to know Adam is hiding something. Trust nobody." A chill washed over me, cutting all ties I had with naivete. The looming storm wasn't only outside, it had entered my life, and its heart held revelations that could shake the very foundation of who I was destined to be. Anxiety tangled with anticipation, leaving me adrift on a simmering wave of uncertainty. I had longed for the truth, yet I couldn't help but feel the reckoning was knocking louder with each passing moment. As dawn broke the next day, the sky remained a dull gray, mirroring the weight that settled in my chest. The moment I stepped outside, the scent of rain-soaked earth curled around me like a cloak, yet it couldn't hide the turmoil brewing within. I was on my way to the old bridge, the place that had once been a childhood haunt, now transformed into the meeting ground where the past loomed larger than life. Each step felt like a march towards my fate, traversing the familiar path while feeling utterly lost. The trees, thick with leaves, were swaying lazily, whispering secrets that sent shivers down my spine. Memories of laughter with Adam on that same bridge rushed back, innocent moments overshadowed by the shadows of our family's history now threatening to engulf us both. Arriving at the spot, the tolling of the clock in the distance reminded me of the time slipping away. I spotted Adam standing by the bridge rail, his posture tense, one hand gripping the rickety wood as if it were a lifeline. When he glimpsed me, his expression shifted, surprise melted into concern. "Haley," he called out, his voice nearly swallowed by the gentle roar of the river beneath us. "I'm glad you came." Glad? Or worried? The words escaped my lips before I could reconsider. He sighed, running a hand through his hair, the gesture laden with unease. "Both, I guess. Look, I wish I could have shared this over the phone, but it's serious." My stomach churned at the implication, and I casually leaned against a weathered support beam of the bridge, creating a barrier I hoped would shield me from the onslaught of revelations. "Just tell me. What do you know about Grandpa? What did you find?" Adam shifted, choosing his words carefully. "He wasn't who we thought he was. There's a ledger, Haley. A ledger with names, important names. Deals that he made, decisions that shaped lives and, well, tore them apart." His voice trembled at the edges, revealing a rawness that echoed my own fears. "Why didn't anyone tell me?" I whispered, feeling part of my childhood shatter. "Why didn't you reach out sooner?" "Because I was afraid." He glanced down at his feet, avoiding my gaze. "I thought if I kept my distance, I could escape it all, you know. But then I realized it wouldn't let me go. It took me finding that ledger to finally understand the depth of our family's shadows." Tendrils of anger bubbled beneath my skin. "So you waited until I had to reach out to you? You couldn't trust me?" "I had to protect you, Haley." He exploded, eyes now ablaze, a stark contrast to his earlier demeanor. "The truth is dangerous. Just knowing what I know puts you at risk. This isn't only about me, Adam. It's about our family. We need to face it together," I countered, my voice rising as the memory of our childhood camaraderie flooded my mind, an innocent belief in the strength of family bonds now battered by reality. And just then, as the final notes of our discussion floated in the air, the sudden echo of footsteps broke through the dense atmosphere. We both turned, startled by the rapid approach of figures emerging from the dense trees. My heart raced, recognizing them instantly. "Megan?" I called out, the confusion evident in my voice. She stepped closer, eyes wide with fear, her blonde hair whipping in the wind. "I had to come. I was at the cafe when you left, and I overheard something." "Overheard what?" Adam barked, tension snapping like a tightrope about to break. Megan's breathing was labored as she shook her head, expression grave. "A woman. She was talking about your grandfather, about a legacy that's coming to collect. She mentioned you, Haley, and someone named Victor." A cold dread seeped into my bones. "Victor? Who is he?" "I don't know," she stammered, but she was frantic, saying that the ledger has names important to some powerful people. She said if you come back to the family, back to the truth, it could put everyone in danger, even those of us who don't know what's at stake. Panic rose within me, fluttering like a trapped bird in my chest. "Then we have to go back to the family now," I insisted, though the thought churned my stomach. I couldn't leave this unaddressed. Not after everything I had already uncovered. "No." Adam interjected, his expression shifting from shock to a flat-out refusal. "That's exactly what they want us to do, and whoever Victor is. We need a plan before we confront anyone else." Before I could respond, an ominous crack of thunder erupted above us, plunging the world into unexpected darkness as rain began to pour in sharp sheets, cascading down like the truth that threatened to drown us. It was there, surrounded by the chaos of the storm, that I noticed the weight of Adam's gaze linger. It held something heavy, something more than words could carry. I opened my mouth, ready to ask what he was thinking, to pry deeper into what he wasn't saying when the ground beneath us trembled, a foreboding rumble that reverberated through the bridge. Then came a sudden explosion of light. The momentary dazzle captured my vision, illumination quickly swallowed by shadows. Disorientation gripped me, and I stumbled back, feeling a surge of panic swell as I braced for impact. "Haley! Get back!" Adam shouted above the roaring wind as I felt my heart slamming against my ribs, impossible to ignore. The next instant, figures emerged from the swirling shadows, a stark contrast of resolution and dominance, their intentions unclear, their faces obscured. "Looks like the past doesn't want to be buried after all," a voice growled through the cacophony, sending chills sprinting down my spine. That I was standing at the precipice of an irrefutable reality, frozen in place by fear, unable to decide whether to fight, flee, or confront what lay ahead. Just as it felt as if the storm had conspired with my destiny, I heard Adam whisper urgently, "Trust no one, not even me." And in that moment, I knew what I thought I understood about my family, about Adam, and about myself was about to spiral into a truth darker than I could ever imagine. The rain lashed against my skin, the world blurring around me as I stood frozen on that ancient bridge. The weight of the figures approaching twisted something deep within me, a primal urge to run battling a desperate need to understand. Shadows lurked behind them, murky shapes that deepened the feeling of impending chaos. "What do you want?" My voice came out stronger than I felt, firm yet shaky, as my heart hammered in my chest. One of the figures stepped forward, their silhouette cutting sharply through the gusting winds. "You're Haley," he stated, voice smooth and unsettling. "We've been looking for you." The chill woven into his words slithered through me. I shared a glance with Adam and Megan, their faces echoed my rising terror as a whispered urgency sat heavy among us. "Who are you?" I demanded, stepping back to put space between us, drawing from an instinct fueled by survival. "That we are the ones who will shed light on your grandfather's legacy," the figure replied, arrogance dripping from each word. "And you, dear girl, are at the crux of this unfolding story. Leave us alone." Adam's voice cracked, mingling with the pounding rain, desperation bursting forth. I felt the knot in my stomach clench tighter as I slowly began to realize the enormity of what I was facing, the connections between their appearance and our desperate search for truth. "You don't have to do this," I stammered, fighting to suppress the rising fear that threatened to drown me. "Do what?" The figure replied mockingly, his eyes narrowing as though savoring the foreboding of the moment. "You should know by now that secrets can be a dangerous game, and it seems your grandfather left you holding the stakes." In that moment, time stood still. I felt the shift in my reality, the tightening of the strands that bound me to the ghosts of my family's past. Every hidden memory surged to the surface, and I could almost hear my grandpa's voice, echoing through the years, prophesizing wisdom intertwined with sorrow. "Let's leave the theatrics," I shot back defiantly, emboldened by the gravity of the moment. "What do you want from me?" The figure stepped closer, his presence unraveling the tension in the air, his voice swaying between soothing and sinister. "Your grandfather made choices that saved you, choices forged in a world of shadows. You are the key to understanding why. What are you talking about?" I said, my heart racing, uncertainty fanning the flames of fear. "What choices? What did he do?" His lips curled into a smilia grin that felt less like a welcome and more like an omen. "He buried the evidence of his past, but other men's ambitions strive to claim what has been concealed. You will either embrace your inheritance or allow the darkness to snuff it out." "Stop!" I shouted, confusion swirling with dread. Memories of innocent laughter turned twisted, the tales that had once grounded me now engulfed by a wildfire of mistrust. "Do you work for Victor? Victor is insignificant compared to what is at stake. You must choose, Haley," he emphasized, piercing my defenses. "Choose." My voice trembled as I grasped for clarity amid the chaos that threatened to unravel me. "Choose what? To accept a legacy stained with secrets? To become just another puppet in this twisted game. Accepting your truth is liberating, he said, tone soothing but touched with an underlying menace. It's the only way to save your family. Tears prickled at my eyes, tightening all the raw emotions that had surged within me. I felt the heaviness of countless secrets, the weight of my grandfather's actions pressing down on my very soul. You're wrong, I said, summoning courage. I may not fully understand all that has transpired, but I will not accept a path that leads me to darkness. In an instant, Adam's voice cut through the tension. You don't hold the power here. We might not know all of this, but we're not alone. Whatever ties bind us to our family, they cannot control us. Megan's grip tightened around my arm, as if anchoring me to hope amid the tempest. What happens next is ours to decide. We break the chains instead of forging new ones. The figure recoiled slightly, surprise etched on his features as a hint of uncertainty flickered through his confident facade. You think you can escape your fate? You're wrong, girl. An electric pulse shot through me, igniting a flicker of desperation. I stepped forward, my voice steadying with conviction. No. I can't change what has happened in my family, but I can choose how I will respond to it. I can guard the vulnerable truth of our past while rewriting our story. Lightning cascaded across the sky, illuminating the tension-laden air between us, clear as day, a rift that was widening. My heart pounded fiercely, a hymn of resilience and ancestral weight, echoing the footsteps of generations that had come before me. Even as uncertainty loomed around me like a heavy fog, I knew that every choice lay ahead, illuminated by raw determination. Suddenly, from the shadows crept a man, dressed in dark clothing, his face obscured. He bore an all too familiar intensity in his eyes. I recognized him, the same man who had confronted me at my graduation. Victor, I whispered, heart sinking as realization cascaded through me. His grim smile echoed the danger in the air, a visceral reminder of how deep my family's secrets ran. Ah, Haley. Just in time to meet your destiny, but before I could muster a response, Megan jolted me, eyes wide with fear. We need to move. Out of the storm, Adam begged, his urgency palpable. We can't let them control the narrative any longer. With a final glance towards Victor and the foreboding figure that had whispered chaos into my ear, I turned, my heart resolute. Together, Adam, Megan, and I sprinted toward the unknown, a path forged by unknown dangers but buoyed by a burgeoning hope. We would break the chains of our family's shadows. With every heartbeat echoing like thunder in the air, I could feel the promise of a different course ahead. As we raced against the weather's wrath, the storm began to fade, each pounding drop serving not as a caution but as a reminder that we had the power to choose. A storm that, while tumultuous, could wash away the remnants of our family's secrets. We could rewrite our legacy, and I felt it coursing through me with every decisive step forward, a truth deeper than the darkness, one that refused to be silenced any longer, and the connection forged between us, wrapped in the tendrils of the rain-soaked air, whispered louder than the storm. Together, I vowed, knowing our shared strength would yield an insurmountable destiny. Together, we would face the truth, and light would break through the chaos, rebirthing a legacy steeped in understanding, not fear. As I stepped forward, heart swelling with determination, I knew the dawn would come, and we would rise from the shadows, ready to carve our own path from the ashes.